In 3, 2, 1, rebuild.
Like every rebuild match played before, first 20 seconds are autonomous and pre-programmed. 3147 Munster horsepower releasing their fuel out into their active hub. 4926 Galactech coming back with some of those game pieces they picked up from the neutral zone. 868 the Tech Hounds releasing a good volley of fuel alongside their teammates 234 Cyber Blue. Ending the autonomous period 42-20 in favor of your Blue Alliance. That's Alliance 4. The remainder 2 minutes and 20 seconds, all teleoperated. Human players pick up their controllers, are driving the robots that their team built this season. 6498 Castle Robotics heading around the center part of the field, trying to get those game pieces called fuel out into their active hub. Each of those worth 1 point for its Alliance. Blue Alliance, if they were able to score any point at game pieces at this point, would be worth 0 since their hub is inactive. 234 making use of a shuttling design to pass those game pieces onto their side of the field. One of their Alliance opponents, 3147 Munster horsepower, applying some of that bumper-on-bumper defensive pressure. Red Alliance coming out of their first active hub period, getting about parity where their opponents were during the autonomous period. 234 receiving some of that bumper pressure, getting stuck up against their own trench. 4926 Galactech making way their side to the far side of the field, trying to pick up as much fuel as possible and fill their hopper before their hub becomes active. Red Alliance hub now active. 6498 Castle Robotics and Galactech, your home team, able to get a couple of those game pieces out. 868 the Tech Hounds losing their turret. It's now spinning around behind them. They're trying to apply that defensive pressure since they're not able to score themselves anymore. 60 seconds remaining in the match. Blue Alliance continuing to move around the field of play. 868 pretty wild with their detached game piece there. 234 Cyber Blue receiving some of the defensive pressure of their own. 3147 Munster horsepower has been crazy throughout this entire match. 87-80 in favor of your Blue Alliance. Blue Alliance hub currently active, not scoring many game pieces for themselves. 234 hoping to add some of that pressure to the fray. 2 red robots joining that defensive bump. 868 continuing to drag around their turret and apply that pressure to their opponents. End game period, 13 points to distinguish these two teams. Both of those hubs remain active for those alliances, getting their final opportunities to score points. 868 the Tech Hounds applying that defensive pressure. 4926 Galactech scoring a couple more game pieces. 234 returning the call and trying to bring up that point differential. Scores 223-120 in favor of your 8th seeded Red Alliance. They're continuing to score. Now parity, 8th Red Alliance in the lead, and that's about time for playoffs match 5. Tied at the end of score. Blue Alliance is your 4th alliance, 127-124. Equal in penalties, but distinguishing there, of course, scoring fuel. Your Alliance 4 will remain in the lower bracket. We'll see them again in match 10. Unfortunately for Alliance 8, this is the end of the road of this week.